Hello everybody, Mitzi Cruz here, host of Lincoln Live. Today we are live with Denise Moore of Fowler Nurseries. Super excited for this interview. Can't wait to learn more about this amazing business that's been around for quite a long time. So first of all, Denise, I just want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Denise Moore, a fourth generation owner of Fowler Nurseries. I own the company with my parents and my grandmother, and then my brother is also involved in the company. It was started in 1912 by my great-grandfather, and we started Castle needed help growing more trees for the area, and we've been growing trees since, and we grow about 1 million trees per year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So we primarily sell in California, and then some up to Oregon, Washington, and then across the states, but mostly in California. And then most of them are almond trees. About 3/4 of them are almond trees, and then we get into peaches, pears, apricots, nectarines, plums, prunes, Asian pears, cherries, lots of things.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how many different varieties of the different fruit trees are you growing?
We have about 500 different combinations, and so combinations, we have roots, and then we have the top that we will bud or graft onto the top of it. So depending upon what the soil types or the conditions of the soils, a almond farmer could have a plum rootstock, but it's actually an almond tree. And so we do a lot of research to be able to get those right combinations to solve the growers' issues.
Wow, and so all that research that's done right here at the nursery?
Yes, it is done right here at the nursery. And then we also have another location out in Nicholas, which is where we have a lot of our orchards that we use the branches off of the orchards to be able to make our next generation of trees.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Wow. So how many acres is this location, and how many acres is your Nicholas location?
This one is about 500, and then we lease 100 acres across Virginia town. And then over in Nicholas, we have about 100 acres, but most of it is in walnut orchards, and then also our budwood orchard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So we grow about 50 acres worth of trees every year. And then a lot of it, the ranch, is also cattle, oak trees, rocks, things that we can't necessarily farm, but we have other things that we work on too.
And how many employees does it take to keep all of this running?
Sure. So we have about 30 salaried members, 70 year round, and then during our harvest season we get up to about 110.
Wow, and I imagine it's the same folks. You probably have a really good retention rate.
Quite a bit of it is, yes. Most of our employees live in like the Yuba City area, and then they'll commute in every day. And yeah, but a lot of them are returning, and it's really nice to see them every year and to have them come back.
Wow, that is awesome. So now we had a really wet winter this year, so how did that affect your season?
Sure. So first of all, we sell to the public, and because it was so wet, nobody wanted to plant a tree. So we have decided to keep our trees available all summer, Monday through Friday. But for our wholesale side of the company, many of our growers were a little delayed in planting. And so we harvest in the winter when the trees are asleep, they're dormant, they don't have the leaves. So it's a good time for us to pull them out of the ground, and then for the grower to put them in the ground if they're able to. But when the grower's not able to, due to the rains that we had, then they have to go into storage, and then they have to wait. So it takes a little bit more for the grower to be able to get them into the ground. And then also they aren't able to see if they need replants and things that way. So sales were a little bit slower due to the rain, but overall it was a great season for us.
So yeah, I mean, that's interesting. So typically your the time that you're open to the public, you had mentioned off camera, is January through April?
January through March.
Okay.
So it's 8 weekends on Fridays and Saturdays from 8 to 4. But because of the rain and things, we are now open Monday through Friday from 8 to 4, which is our typical office hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, and you may have mentioned this, but do you also have citrus trees?
We do not do citrus.
Oh, okay.
We have the Auburn Ravine that runs right through our property, and so we get really cold right here. We kind of have a little microclimate.
Sure.
So we'll get down into the mid to high teens, which citrus doesn't live. In fact, I have one in my yard here, and it's not very happy. So despite my best efforts, it doesn't like it. So we actually will look at winter weather for like Colfax and Grass Valley and things that way to know what we're going to happen here. Lincoln weather is completely different for what we're looking at for winter.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. So it's just a little different. And then we also get hotter than Sacramento right here too because of this little microclimate we have.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. So then also like no grapes, no berries, things that way. So deciduous trees, things that are supposed to lose their leaves, and orchard trees.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So tell us about what your biggest your top sellers are. Did you mention that was an almond variety? Or?
So almond trees in general, we sell about 750,000 almonds every year, and a lot of them will go anywhere between like Chico area down the I-5 and then into 99 and all the way south down to like Bakersfield or the Tehachapies or Grapevine.
Sure.
And so we sell lots of almonds, lots and lots. So most blocks are about 50% of one variety, and then they'll have different percentages of other varieties because you need pollinizers for most of them.
Sure.
So it's a little easier for helping us to figure out what we're going to grow, because pretty much all or 50% of it is one variety, and that's kind of the mainstay for the almond world. And then everything else will be different varieties that we have to figure out.
And I understand that you guys have actually crossbred, or I don't know what the terminology is. You have created kind of your own different varieties of trees.
Yeah, so we do our own breeding as well, and then we also work with breeding programs around the world. So my great-grandfather and my grandfather did some breeding, and then we have a researcher on staff that does some. But they used to do more pear and peach breeding, kind of back a couple generations. Now we work a little bit more towards almonds. But for the most part, we coordinate with other research facilities and other breeders. We work with one in France and then one in Russia.
Wow.
For different purposes, and bring their items in. So the Russia location is for rootstock, and then the France is more for varieties.
Got it. And so I know we've done a little research looking at your Facebook page and some of the literature that's out there, and there's potted trees, there's rootstock. Tell us kind of about what the differences are.
Sure.
With that.
So the most of our trees that we grow are called bare root. It basically means when we pull them out of the ground, there's nothing on the roots. They're bare. There's no soil. And that tends to be our preferred method of growing trees. One, we've been doing that for 100 years.
Yeah.
And then two, I just think it's a bigger, healthier, stronger tree to sell to not only the farmers, but also local homeowners. But we do grow trees in containers. They're 4 by 4 inches by 12 inches tall, and which is a little bit larger than what the standard is in the nursery industry. And then from there, a grower can take them at different times of the year versus our bare root trees we harvest in the winter. So these trees can go to a grower in the fall or in the spring. So they have a little bit of a larger planting time frame that they can have. So we do a little bit of both, but our heart is still in the bare root trees.
Got it. And how long can they be bare root?
So we, for what the majority of what we plant, they're about 15 months from the time that we plant them to when we harvest them. But like a pear tree can take up to 3 years. So we plant seed or cuttings, which is basically just a stick that we shove in the ground, or we can get items that are clonally propagated. So it comes out of a lab, and they're just like little teeny tiny plantlets that have a couple of leaves and little roots on it, and we'll put those out in the field. So by the time that they're put in to when we harvest, most of our items are about 15 months.
Got it.
Yeah.
So,
and then, so a lot of it too, we will we'll also propagate in our own greenhouses and cold frames that we have here on site as well, where we can take little cuttings of softer tissue and plant those, and then make rootstock out of that.
So that's interesting that you mentioned that, and I know you guys don't do citrus, but I was wondering, like when I was a kid, all the oranges you got and the tangerines and all of the citrus fruit, they all had seeds. Nowadays, everybody's breeding all the seeds out of them, or
they do that, or they will. What the easier way to do it is they can just do one variety, and then they can cover it so no pollen gets in, and then you don't have the seeds because it doesn't get truly pollinized.
Got it. Yeah, I was curious.
So no, all of our stuff has seeds.
Got it.
yeah. There's not a way to get a peach seed out of a peach.
Right.
Yeah, it would be nice, but it doesn't happen.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So most of our orchards, the fruit is a byproduct for us. We want the branching off of the trees, and so we prune them kind of funny looking. And so people will come out for tours, and they're like, "What are these lollipop trees that you have?" Because a lot of orchards, you can see through the tree, you can see the spacing and see the fruit and stuff. And we want as much branching as possible, so we cut them kind of funny, and then we'll take that branching and take just the teeny tiny bud where the leaf comes out, and we'll take that and we'll put it into the rootstock. It's kind of like a little tree surgery that we do, and then that will be the fruiting variety. So like the fruit is really just a really nice benefit of working here, but it's not our primary goal.
Got it.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned you guys actually do offer tours.
We do occasionally, mostly to like school organizations, and then some gardening clubs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome.
and then we also work with the Lincoln High School. We do an internship program with them. So we end up with some of their high school students from the ag program will come out here during winter break or summer break and work. And so it's a good way for the kids to kind of get an experience and see a different type of agriculture and things too. So.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that was one of the questions I had was I just figured there had to be some sort of collaboration going on between the high school, because they have that big ag program there. So.
Yeah, they also have an orchard from our trees there, and then we work with the teachers there as well to be able to help them. We've donated a couple of vehicles and work back and forth with them.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if you'd mentioned on camera, but we had talked about it online. How long have you guys been here?
So 107 years. So the land itself was a wedding gift for my great-great-grandmother.
Oh my gosh.
Nice wedding gift. And so we've been very, very fortunate that we've been able to keep the land in the family and pass it through generations. And if part of it gets sold off, we've been able to buy it back in and things. So that's been really, really fortunate. And then there was a judge up in Newcastle who used to have a nursery, and Newcastle was kind of the fruit basket of the U.S. I lived in Rockland growing up, but I spent a lot of time out here and at my grandparents' home, which is just up the hill, and which is where I live now. And it's just been a wonderful way to grow up. I had a horse growing up. I've always had cattle. I could ride my bike around, see the employees. We've had many of our employees have been here for years upon years, upwards of 40, 45 years. Wow. So to be able to kind of grow up with them and still have them here has been very special.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just actually going to open it up for questions or comments unless you
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
No, that'd be great.
All right. Is it important to prune trees often?
It is. One, you also get the shape of the tree. It depends upon how old the tree is, and it's a little different than like a shade tree in a yard too. So you really want to get the structure of the tree just right, and then prune it each year to really kind of keep that structure. You want the light into the tree, and that light basically equals sugar. So you want a little bit of light getting onto the fruit, but not too much, because otherwise you'll burn the fruit. So yes, pruning is important.
Have you always had a green thumb?
No, I don't have a green thumb. I have one plant in my house, and my husband takes care of it. So no, I love being out with the trees and things, but as far as my care of it, no. I can set up a sprinkler system. I love installing sprinklers, but no, I leave the trees to the professionals.
Partner with local 4-H and FFA programs as well?
We do work with a little bit of them. We've had some groups come out, and then my mom was in 4-H, so we've done a little bit of work with them and FFA and at Lincoln and things.
And then Victoria Borst asks, what do you do for curly leaf?
Oh, so peach leaf curl. It has to be sprayed 3 times a year the kind of the easy rule of thumb is Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Valentine's. And unfortunately, our license doesn't allow me to give information, but Isley's Nursery in Auburn is a fabulous resource, and I would go ask them.
Perfect. So on that note regarding the fruit, I know before we sold our last house, we had a peach tree with curly.
Okay.
And
Yes.
we had actually I was not going to ask about that, but rather when we'd get bugs on the fruit. Is that something that you can talk about, or?
I can't recommend products, but it depends upon the type of bug and what you can do. A lot of people don't want to spray anything in their yard, so you can use different organic products. You just have to watch your trees very carefully to make sure you're on top of it, because once kind of a swarm moves in, you could be kind of done for organic purposes.
Sure.
So really, we always recommend Isley's Nursery in Auburn. Okay. They're a wonderful resource. Green Acres in the area is good too. But Isley's, they're good family friends, and so we work with them quite a bit. And so they can recommend the different products depending upon what the pest or bug is and things.
Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, I know we're dealing with that right now with our strawberries, the house that we just bought. It seems like if we let them get red enough to be nice and sweet, then
something's eating them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
that is the problem with having your own garden and stuff. I've got the same thing. I've got snails in my garden right now, and I can't get rid of them. So in fact, I pay my daughter to get rid of them, and the other day I owed her $10 because she got 100 snails off of one bush, and so I was like I'm kind of done with that. But so it's difficult, but it can be done. You just have to be on top of it.
Yeah, see, I have a hard time with that because I grew up for a large portion of my childhood in Folsom.
Okay.
And there we had the great Folsom snail race. So we were always...
Well, if you need some, I got plenty.
Yeah. We'd gather them and we'd try and find the fast ones so we could go race them and everything. So I kind of have a soft spot, but yeah.
Well, my daughter loves bugs and anything that slithers and moves, and she's 6, and so she just helps rehome them in the pasture for me.
Oh, there you go.
So she just takes care of them and moves them. She brings her little red wagon and puts them out in our pasture.
Oh, what a sweet pie.
Yes.
So I want to talk about the raffle prize, and I know that we had some conversation offline about kind of a couple different ways that we could do it. So for those of you that are watching, and if you've ever seen Lincoln Live, we do a raffle at the end of the show. So if you share this video by noon tomorrow and comment shared in the comments below, you'll be entered into a raffle. And so Denise talked about a couple different ways that we could do this with the trees, and I'll let her talk about that. But definitely be sure to share this video, comment shared, so that we can enter you into the raffle. And Denise, you want to talk to us about a couple different options?
Sure. So we have trees available currently that can be purchased and planted. However, due to the heat, one could wait until next year and plant that as well. So if you wanted a tree now, I would highly recommend a peach tree. Probably a Fay Alberta would be one of my favorites to plant. Otherwise, if somebody wanted to wait until next winter or early spring to plant, I would recommend the Gene Alberta peach. And the Gene Alberta is actually one that my great-grandfather originated, and it's one that we say that you have to eat while you bend over because it'll just drip down the front of you. And it's a fabulous large peach, good color, sweet, but still tastes like a peach instead of sugar water. And then also, when you cut it up and put it in a fruit salad, it doesn't oxidize like a lot of fruit does. So it doesn't get that brown color on it. And it's just by far my absolute favorite peach.
So for everybody who shares this video, comment shared, we'll get your entry, and then I'll actually connect you with Denise as far as how you want to proceed. But there's a peach tree in it for you, so definitely do that. Let us know that you shared. And poor Shelby. Shelby is our guest camera person this week, and so she's out here, and that sun is just beating on her.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask Denise, do you have any further questions, comments, or not questions, but rather, was there anything that we didn't talk about that you wanted to mention?
Sure. So we love when people come in and kind of just ask us what we do. If somebody does have questions on pruning, if they want to take a picture of their tree, they can bring it into our office, and if somebody is available, we can help kind of show them where we would cut and what we would do, or if they have questions on peach leaf curl or something along that line. We love people coming in and asking questions. Just don't come around lunchtime. It can be kind of a little tight on staff at that point, but Monday through Friday, 8 to 4 is the best time frame. And then also the other thing that Fowler Nurseries does is we have started a pumpkin patch, and that is out at the corner of Highway 193 and Sierra College Boulevard, and this will be our 3rd year of having it out there on that corner. And we do a pumpkin slingshot, and we work with Hawks Ranch Petting Zoo. And we'll also be doing an event with Gypsy Chic Vintage Market again, which we did last year, and have food trucks in the petting zoo, and it's a lot of fun. So,
and that'll be in the fall as well?
That'll be in the fall, all weekends in October.
Perfect. Yeah. Okay. And where are you located for everyone who's watching?
So we are off of Fowler Road at 525 Fowler Road, right off of Highway 193, and we're considered, our address is Newcastle. One that goes over the trees, which was kind of one of the first ones that our family kind of helped design and stuff that way, and then we've got a few others scattered around here, so all sorts of history and all sorts of interesting pieces around.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today, Denise.
Thank you.
It's been such a pleasure getting to know you and getting to know this awesome business.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I want to thank you guys for joining us, and thank you, Shelby, for your help
yes,
today.
Thank you.
Poor thing. You guys stay cool, and let us know you shared so we can get you entered into the raffle, and have a wonderful day.